Well, hello and welcome. This is Ross Jones, Bold Business Podcast Show, and today I'm joined by Heather Booker, Spiritual Soul Coach. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Ross. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back to our show. So, it's been a few years now since we did our podcast before. So, what's been happening with you over these last 3 years?
Yeah, I hadn't realised it had been such a long time, but I guess, like a lot of us, the last 3 years I've held a lot of change. Last time I seem to recall, we were sat in my therapy centre and recording, and obviously, that's no more. That's finished and gone, and things have moved on. Things have changed, like they have for an awful lot of people. And we spent the first lockdown moving house, closing down a business with zero furniture because that was all still in storage, and basically a lot of shifts and a lot of change, a lot of unexpected change that you didn't see coming. And, I always kind of think change is one of those things, isn't it, that you can try and stop it, but it's like holding back the tide. You can't. If things are going to change, they're going to change, and you don't have any control over most of it. But one of the beautiful things that comes out of change is that it takes you in directions that maybe you wouldn't have gone in or wouldn't have gone in yet. Or maybe wouldn't even have thought of going in.
Yeah.
I think at the time it's difficult. It can put you in places that are just amazing, can't it?
Yeah, I've heard that actually from lots of people who've basically been forced to change because of circumstances and turned out to do things that actually they never would have done, but have they feel much better about doing, actually benefiting them.
And I think that's one thing that over the last few years is that, that is one thing that we have seen with a lot of people is that time to, obviously there was a mix of people that were really, really busy during that time, full on, didn't get time to think. And then there were people like myself who couldn't work because everything we did was hands-on and we couldn't be with people. Times like that give you an awful lot of time to really reflect and really do the inner work and think about where you're going and what you're doing and what matters to you. And those times let us look at, is what I'm doing working for me? Is where I'm going the right direction? Have I just kind of kept going because it's become comfortable and it's safe and I know it? And I don't know about you, but I've certainly seen an awful lot of people have asked themselves those questions.
Yeah, definitely. I've done it myself. Definitely.
You too.
Yeah, I think it's it's having that space, isn't it? And I remember thinking, quite enjoying that. It was so quiet here, for example, outside because nobody was travelling, were they? But I just remember, although it was, it sort of felt pretty horrendous what was going on. In a way, we had to slow down and take that time. And I sort of wish that, or hoped that we wouldn't go back to living at 1,000 miles an hour again, but I'm not sure that's really happened.
No, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because that is something that we heard over and over again from many different people, whether it was through the media, through people that through people that you reconnected with. Because again, that was a time where a lot of us reconnected with people that, life was too busy and you just didn't connect with everybody. And when it stops or it slows down to that degree, you get that chance to reconnect in again. And the amount of people that said exactly what you've just said, that hopefully we won't go back to being 100 miles an hour. Hopefully we will have learnt a lot from it. Whether it has or not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's very interesting. So I know that you do a lot of work with astrology, yeah?
Astrology, moons
and things.
Cycles of nature.
So because I know, and when I was a child, I used to look at my horoscope in magazines and things, and take it quite seriously. But to what extent can astrological signs and charts and whatnot, how can they predict things going on? So nobody seemed to know that the pandemic was going to come, did they? Or did they? I don't know. Is there something that we can use to take note of things that are going to happen?
I guess the answer to that is different people would give you a different answer. So you'd get some astrologers or numerologists or even psychics to a degree saying that, yes, we can predict the future. You get other people saying absolutely unequivocally, no, we can't predict it. My way of looking at it, I think, is that if you learn to work with nature, you see that everything is cyclical, everything comes around again. And predicting the future, I don't think anybody sort of foresaw the pandemic coming, but I think there was a lot of expectation that it would happen at some stage.
Yeah.
If you look back at books that were written, back in the sort of 80s, 90s, sci-fi movies, sci-fi books, various different things. There's a lot of them include things about pandemics or major respiratory diseases or things that happen. So on a kind of more collective basis, when we look at it spiritually, then if one person links into something that's happening to us, then it opens it up and everybody that is connected can link into that and see what's coming. So you pick up on a collective energy, which is why if you have an idea for work, the chances are somebody else has had the same idea.
Yes.
Come up with a plot for a book, the chances are somebody else has had the same plot, because what you're doing is you're connecting in with that energy of that idea or that plot. So I think we can kind of loosely predict things in that we can see things are changing or things are coming back round or things are moving, but I don't know if I'd want to predict any huge events like that one.
No.
Not sure anyone saw that one coming.
No.
All the effects that it had going forward, I think when we were in it, you could see that there was going to be effects coming out of it. You could see that there were going to be changes and shifts happening. And to be fair, I think they're still happening. I think we haven't seen all the changes and all the shifts that's brought with it yet. We haven't got that full awareness yet of what impact it's had. But you can't go back to how it was before.
No. And that's interesting, isn't it? I do, in my workshops, I have this little exercise where it's the idea being that actually change is difficult, people don't like it. So I get people to change, in twos, they have to change parts of the clothing that they're wearing, their appearance just generally. But before they've done that, they sort of size each other up and down to get the gist of each other, where they're looking at, turn around, change their stuff, they're changing that, undo buttons and whatever. And then they have to list the 5 things that this person's changed. And the minute they've done it, they're putting everything back as it was before. They're doing up buttons and things. Because I said, I didn't say you could change. And why have you done that? And they'll say, because it was uncomfortable. They immediately go back to how it was. So it's very interesting. And I think some people have gone back to how it was before, haven't they? But it is interesting. People who don't necessarily like change. But the world will never be the same again, will it?
The world won't be the same. And the way we view things and see things, I don't think will ever be the same. Who would have ever thought when we last spoke 3 years ago, who would have ever thought that, we could basically effectively put a planet in lockdown?
Yeah.
We would have laughed if we'd said,
yeah.
Everybody's going to be in lockdown. There'll be no traffics on the road. You'll be taking the dog for a walk and watching deer in the field and hearing birdsong that you haven't heard for years because there isn't that level of noise about. I think the way we see things and look at things has shifted, and you can't, when we talk about work, when you've learned something or experienced something in your business, you can't go back to where you were before because you've changed your knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with this, is that we've fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
Quite how remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's better, and hopefully we've all become spiritually wiser and more intelligent, but we'll see, I guess, won't we?
Yeah, that definitely. I don't know whether it's just because I'm more open to it myself, but I've been aware of more and more people speaking in with reference to spirituality and energy and stuff like that. So I'd say I don't know whether it's because I'm more open to it or whether there is actually an increase.
I think there's been an increase, yeah. I mean, it's something that I've been involved in for the last 20 5 years now, I think. I've been coaching, even before it was called coaching, I've been mentoring and coaching people spiritually for that length of time. And I've seen a real upsurge in the amount of people that are interested in spirituality, that are talking about it, that are searching. And I think that word actually, searching, is a really relevant one, because I think that's what's happening, is that we're all searching. We're searching for a bigger picture. We're searching for the reasons for things. We're searching for what. And at the end of it, we like to be in control, don't we? We're human beings. We may be souls, but we're here having human experience. And we like to feel that we've got an element of control over our environment. And of course, we don't.
Yeah.
And I guess spirituality and looking at spirituality helps you to come to terms with these things and understand the bigger picture and the bigger reasons and the higher purposes that are happening. And maybe it just brings that element of comfort and safety and security, but also connection and wisdom and knowledge that comes with it, because that's the whole thing about spirituality. It's understanding the connections and that we are all connected. We talked earlier about, me letting a wasp out of the window and you've got a fly buzzing around the office. But, at the end of the day, we are all connected, whether it's a tiny, tiny animal, whether it's a flower, whether it's a crystal, whether it's each other. On a soul level, we're all connected. We're all part of the same energy. And what we do with each other has an impact.
Yeah.
And I think, that's the biggest part of spirituality, is understanding those connections and understanding that it all comes from energy and it all comes from a place of love and heart-centered connection. And that stopping, that silence, that just having to just be, allows you to realize those connections, allows you to see the bigger picture and ask those deeper questions. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah. How about with you then? So I know you had to, you didn't have to, well, I guess you did, well, you chose to give up your clinics, and so that's no longer there. So what changes has it made for you in your business and your life, Heather?
Really quite huge ones, I guess. I think I was as guilty as anybody else of, I'd had the clinic for 12 years. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the place. It was comfortable. It was easy. It was comfortable. It was, I could run it without having to think about it. I'd done it for so long, but I wasn't expanding what I did because I got lost in running the clinic. So even though I was still doing the spiritual work one-to-ones with people on a one-to-one basis, I wasn't pushing myself forward in a way that obviously I'd been kind of being nudged to do for quite some time. So closing the centre during the first lockdown was a really difficult decision, but it kind of also wasn't a decision because I could see where things were going. I could see what we would need to do, and it just wasn't practical. And, in business, you and I both know that in business there are peaks and troughs and things come to an end, and you've got to recognise when it's time to close the door as well as recognise when it's time to open a door, don't you?
Yeah.
And there were too many signs, there were too many things saying to me, it's done now. But it still doesn't make it any easier telling all the therapists. We had 20 therapists there at that time. Yeah. 20 therapists that I was closing the doors. It was a really difficult conversation. But what it led to was some of them saying, oh, actually, well, now you've done that, I think I'll go off and do this. Or I'm going to move geographical location, or I'm going to change the way I work. And sometimes when you make the shifts and the changes, it allows other people to do it as well.
Yeah.
So I think that was quite one of the good things that came out of it, I guess. And the other thing that came out of it was it allowed me space. Once I'd closed the doors, once I'd done all the logistics of closing a business down, it allowed me the space to go, okay, so what's the next step on this path? Where are you going? What are you doing? What do your guides want you to do? What's your higher self pushing you to do? And out of that has come about, working even deeper with my soul, even deeper on a spiritual level, which meant that I kind of went inwards for a long time. I basically had a year of kind of introversion, where I literally just went inwards and did a lot of soul searching and did a lot of checking in and a lot of bigger questions, deeper questions, bigger picture stuff. And having come out of that, and on the other side, there's like a podcast in the work, there's a spiritual membership community in the works, there are a couple of books in the works. There are all these things coming out that I probably wouldn't have done with having the centre, purely from a time basis more than anything.
Yeah.
And now I can do those things, and therefore I can reach more people and allow more people to connect with their soul and their higher purpose, which at the end of the day is what I'm here to do.
Sounds really exciting, actually. I can't wait to see these. Yeah.
It's another way, it's another stepping out of your comfort zone, isn't it? And I kind of thought back to when we first spoke and about that stepping out of your comfort zone. And if you want to do something, just get out there and do it, and don't let anything hold you back. And one of the things that came out of this was that the biggest thing that holds you back is yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
You can talk yourself in or out of anything.
Yeah.
And you can give yourself whatever excuses you want, can't you?
Yeah.
So nobody else will hold you back the same way that you will hold yourself back.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's like, when I wrote my first book published this year, but I wanted to be a writer since I was a child. So my whole life, which as we know is many years, many decades, my whole life, I've not been writing. And I remember making the decision that, because I had a bit of a dabble, and then I just threw myself into my career. Therefore, I had no time to write.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was doing it at the time. I didn't really understand why, but I have a much better idea now. And it's, it's like as a business coach myself, it's like, I say to people, you're coming up with reasons and stuff. Basically, human beings just lie to ourselves, and they sort of look a bit taken aback because it's quite blunt. But we do, don't we?
Yeah.
We come up with all reasons and excuses not to do something.
Yeah. And there's also the other flip side of the coin, isn't there? Which is there is a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And sometimes that book, the book that you might have written 10 years ago, wouldn't have been the book that you've written now.
I know. Oh, no, it couldn't have been.
So there's kind of it's that understanding and awareness, isn't it, of actually I'm lying to myself. I'm literally putting excuses in my own way, and what I need to do is get out of my own way and get on with this.
Yeah.
And that takes a degree of honesty with yourself and a degree of courage with yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one that, well, you know what? I could have done it at any stage in this, but it hasn't felt like the right time. It hasn't felt like right time, right place, right idea, whatever. And it's that knowledge of which one of those two things it is, isn't it?
Yes.
I could have done a podcast a couple of years ago. I could have written my books years ago, but it wasn't the right time or the right place, because that sequence of years and years of experience, of building knowledge, of working with people, of working with nature and the cycles of nature, and understanding about astrology and numerology and the moon and everything else that's come together within it all, will bring a different perspective to it. So the book that I'm writing now and the book that you've written this year are and will be what they are because of how we've grown and how we've shifted and changed. And 10 years ago, it would have been a totally different, and in 10 years future, anything we do will be different again because of that, won't it?
Yeah.
We're always changing, we're always growing.
Yeah. Fantastic. So when should we be looking out to see your book? Your first book?
Idea. I genuinely have no idea. There's about 3 playing around in my head at the moment. I'm being guided to write 3 of them. One of them will take quite some time because it involves me actually going to visit places and doing research in places, because it's a purely energetic book. The other 2 I could probably push through and get out early next year, I would imagine.
Okay, let's see them then. We're really looking forward to that. Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much. It's really fantastic speaking with you again today. Thank you.
It's lovely to connect again.